Welcome to the Social Selling Linking into Sales podcast with myself, Martin Brossman. Greg Hyer's on his way. He's working with a client, so we'll cut him in separate on here. And Elise Archer's off making money. And I am so excited to have Liesl Mathis on the show from Red Hat. I saw you at the Internet Summit talking on social selling. And of course, we've had the podcasts for many years. Greg and I were in the core development for some content that Red Hat purchased on fundamentals of getting going in social selling before you started ramping up. So I came in, sort of critical to go, she better be good, and you knocked it out of the park at the Social Selling Summit. I see you as the champion of social selling for Red Hat, and that's great because I love the company. I love the innovativeness. I love the fact that your company is about really people personally being inspired and empowered and doing the right thing.
Great. Yes. Thank you. I had a blast at the Internet Summit. It was so much fun being there and sharing what Red Hat does in terms of using social media for their salespeople. And it was great meeting you too. So thank you.
Excellent. It was also fun winning the book. It is.
Yes. Having this contest really helped, don't they?
Yeah. It was fun. I think I did my best to social sell you on being on the show.
Yeah, you had a lot of tweets going. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was great. So that was it. And Greg's joined us here, so we got him. Greg, it's good to see you're able to jump in, and I'm excited to hear what new news we have. So if you would start, and then we'll get to our guest.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple things that have been developing in the social media world, and let's find out about them right now. So we have, first thing, Instagram. For those of you advanced social sellers who are using Instagram to do some social selling, they are releasing a separate messaging app called Direct. And you can actually find it. Go out to producthunt.com and do a search for Instagram Direct, and you will find a link directly to that. No pun intended. But so what it does is they're testing out actually separating the direct messaging feature that's inside of Instagram, separating that out from Instagram itself. There's a couple things. Don't necessarily just jump in and early adopt this quite yet because it's still a beta product, but just kind of look into it, be aware that it exists. If you do decide to take the leap and install it on your phone, just know that when you do that, it's actually going to remove the direct messaging feature from Instagram itself. So just be aware that that's kind of something that's developing. I know there's a lot of folks out there who might be using direct messaging in order to take and reach certain folks on Instagram. Another thing too, there's been some recent changes actually with Snapchat where they're actually separating the social from the media with different feeds. So I don't know if you've seen this in the update recently, Martin, but there are separate feeds inside of Snapchat. So if you're using Snapchat for business purposes, or maybe you're out with a client at a client meeting and you're having, using the filters and having some fun with things like that, then just know that there might be a separate feed available for the promotional side, and then one for your friends as well. We're seeing this more and more actually even with Facebook, where they're actually taking and breaking out these feeds in particular. So that way you can actually see the other things that are happening in the social networks and then engage in that content with a little bit more of a focused experience. One last thing that kind of caught my attention on the radar as well, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF. These guys are pretty much the champions of the internet. They are saying, LinkedIn, shame on you, basically. So I'll link to an article in the show notes about this, but this goes back to, we had mentioned a few episodes ago, a couple times, the company HiQ, who is out there taking a look at people's public profiles on LinkedIn without being logged into LinkedIn. So basically going to Google and clicking on a public profile, your public profile, and trying to determine whether or not the likelihood of you to leave your position. So companies, large multinational companies, they invest in the solutions like this because for them to lose headcount can be expensive and have a negative impact overall on the business. So if they can head off people leaving the organization, then then it saves them money in the long run. And well, LinkedIn doesn't like when basically people come out to the website and start scraping data out of it. They think they actually want to have that activity specifically classified as hacking under the 1986 Computer Hacking Act of some sort like that. I'll put a link in the show notes for it. But it's another law that was actually written, before social media, and in 1986, that they want to classify this activity as hacking. I'm not sure if I really agree with this. The Electronic Frontier it does not agree with it as well. So they're saying bad LinkedIn, you shouldn't be doing this, and because what they're saying is that by default, LinkedIn gives people public profiles, and the way that they can actually eliminate this problem is to make public profiles hidden from the internet. So I don't know if you agree with this, but if you agree or disagree with it, hit us up on Twitter. Go to over to twitter.com/linking in the number 2 sales, and let us know what you think. Or if you want, send us a message or come out to the company page on LinkedIn and take a look at the article and see what you think, and put some feedback out there. Should your public profile not be public anymore? I don't know.
Well, I think that'd be terrible. I think the greatest advantage of LinkedIn is that you have a controlled environment that can be highly indexed by Google. So I think, and I do want to add one more thing on Instagram, the ability to search hashtags is turned on. So if you didn't notice it, that's a good key way for you to watch what's going on.
Right. So in addition, the ability to take and follow a hashtag is becoming available.
I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Right. Thank you. Follow a hashtag. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can definitely always search hashtags, but being able to take and follow a specific hashtag, that's going to be very powerful. Especially, you want to follow a hashtag of a particular event that you're going to, a conference that you're going to, or maybe one that you're not at, but you want to still engage in that conversation, or even around another topic. I think that's powerful too. I think you can do something similar to that on Twitter. At least there's some ways you can automate some of that activity as well. Back to that point about LinkedIn being open. So what I think I want to add one thing to that. LinkedIn has a tendency to take and share some of the technology that they use in order to power LinkedIn. A lot of things that they're doing, they actually release in open source, and that helps the technology community itself, but the core user of LinkedIn is Martin and I, right? So and every salesperson or recruiter or business owner or executive that's out there, those are the core users, and without us, LinkedIn would not exist. So to be able to take and make it very, very difficult to continue to use the platform by working in silos and breaking apart LinkedIn into multiple products. I get it from a business efficiency standpoint. It probably makes a lot more sense, from an operational standpoint, right? From operations efficiency, it makes more sense. But if we continue to have this disconnect of understanding exactly how the user uses LinkedIn and how it can be that economic driver, then we're gonna have an issue, right? A competitor could come along like some others have and start picking it apart. They're gonna do the Walmart approach. Like, how do you defeat, the common question of, how do you defeat Walmart? Well, you open Toys R Us, you open Bed Bath & Beyond, you open a, unique grocery store. You do all these little things. You break them apart one department at a time. So and that could potentially happen here with LinkedIn as well. Someone's going to come in and say, we have a better way of making introductions. We have a better way of group management. So I can think of 2 platforms right now, PitchMe and Meetup right there. 2 things that can take and completely challenge what LinkedIn is doing. All right. So anyways, I think this is something we should continue to pay attention to, especially going into 2018. We'll see how things evolve, especially since the FCC has overturned net neutrality. Mm-hmm. All right. So we're not sure how this is going to change everything.
Okay, let's get started with the show. That's our news clips. Liesl Mathis, I want to just start with this and ask the question of how did you get management to do buy-in for social selling? Because that's the biggest issue we have. People go, I'm excited. I've heard the podcast. I've done some research. I don't understand it all, but my managers go, your job is to pound the phones, and if you don't like it, look for the door.
Yes. The thing about the beauty of working at Red Hat is that anybody can be passionate about an idea and try it out and see how it works. And so I am in corporate marketing and work closely with sales and sales enablement, and saw the need to provide really quality content and information for the sales to use in their social channels to connect with their customers. Because at Red Hat, we have thousands of customers, and our opportunity is to really share what we do at Red Hat, because a lot of our customers are using our Linux operating system, and we have a subscription service. They are putting Linux on their servers, and we have so much more to offer than that with our products and services. So the challenge was really to get that information to our thousands of customers. And traditional ways of selling doesn't really work when you have to scale that large. So that was my passion for really finding a solution to that problem.
And how did you learn about social selling, or get interested, or distinguish it from just traditional selling? Because, it's a new area and everyone has their own definition of it. What just got you interested in this?
Yeah, for me, I've always been, I love content. I'm a content marketer. That's been my background for years. And social media is just it's kind of the next channel, the next way we can promote the content that we marketers create. So I think it's a really nice dovetail when you work with people who are creating content, kind of transferring that and leveraging the social channels is a great, stepping off point.
Excellent. What was the tipping point that got people involved in it? First, you had to find some people that are just passionate about, they had heard of social selling, I assume. What's the pathway you went to? Because you really explained that well in your talk. I want to get it for our listeners as well.
Yeah. So it's a global company. So we have people in all regions, found people who are using social media well, and wanted to really capitalize on their success, and then also found people who wanted to but didn't really know how to do it. So came up with some tools that really provided more structure, because people can be a little nervous about what they should say, especially if they're representing the company. So we wanted to make sure we gave them some clear guidelines as to what was acceptable, and the way we did that was providing them the content. So we have a great content platform that we're putting articles in on a variety of topics, from our technology topics to our verticals, so that people felt comfortable going into the tool, selecting information, and then sharing it out in their network.
Excellent. So what I hear here is the first step was seeing if you could find someone's actually doing it and help amplify their success and support them. And then find the next people who want to do it. And then how do you support and offer structure so they have guidelines? Because you want people a little nervous representing the brand to not just be a loose cannon out there doing anything. So rightfully so, that was an important piece. And then working on building the content, quality content worthy of sharing. Is that
Yes.
the first steps you went through?
Yes. And what's really important at Red Hat, it's really all about the community. We leverage the community of developers to help create our products. And we needed to continue that with the internal group as well. So I went out and found subject matter experts around the company in all the different verticals and technologies, and asked them if they would be willing to help curate content, because the tool is only as good as the content that's in it. And I don't really know what is quality when it comes to JBoss middleware. So I was out there looking for people who wanted to participate, and we have now 111 curators around the company who are actively adding content to our platform, and they find it through RSS feeds, through their marketing contacts. But it was really important to make sure that it wasn't just one or two people putting content in. It was using the smarts of the community.
The question that comes up for me is, how did you get bandwidth and permission to use your time to even cultivate this to start with? Because I realize there's a buy-in needed to start. People don't just create a title, go, we need someone who's the champion social selling in our company. Let's hire someone,
Yeah. There was actually a program in place already. I was hired in as the social selling program manager to really grow this program.
Greg, we had a small piece in providing some of the content. We were still honored to be part of it.
No, in fact, that's a really good point, because I know you came in to help with some training, and training is a huge component of any social selling program, at least at the scale that we needed to launch this. And what we discovered, though, is that from a training perspective, it worked really well for us to customize it more with red hat content. So I was out there talking to the ambassadors who were doing this well, and I leveraged them and brought them into every training session. So red hatters who were learning about the skills, they saw their peer, Sally, here's how she's doing it, and then I want to emulate that. So, the training program that you offered is fantastic, but we needed to pull it in-house and really make it more, red hat specific.
Well, I want to say we wanted to offer a lot more and wanted more buy-in. So, you got to offer what people want at the time. So you meet them where they are, give them what they want. And that was we were part of the team of NC State's Technology Training Solution. So we're very honored that they chose us as part of the content creation. But what we hoped is someone would pick up. You need someone inside to work with to amplify it. And the contact moved on, in my view, before the plane ever took off, and you're that next pilot. So over to you, Greg.
Yeah. So one of the questions I have is that you've mentioned you have a content platform that you're using to curate content. You have a number of different folks who are contributing content there. So I have a couple questions around that. Can you share what platform you're using? And if you can't, are you measuring the performance of that?
Yes, we are not at liberty to say what it is right now because, as you know, technologies change and we are exploring lots of different options. But we measure the data is really important when you're working with a social selling program, because I was able to gather a lot of qualitative data. So that was another one of my big strengths, was just going out and finding people who were doing it well and with their success stories, sharing it to senior leaders. But we also need to make sure that people are using the tool, because we're investing money in this tool. So I am tracking the users. I'm tracking the amount of sharing they're doing. I'm tracking the engagements that content is achieving. We are able to track audiences who are engaging with that content, even granularly down to what is their role in the company. So we're able to see, are we really hitting the right audience?
Okay, very good. So when it comes to social selling metrics and KPIs, absolutely important. It seems to me like the same content metrics, or the same metrics you use to measure content and its effectiveness, plays a role here as well. And we've talked with one or two vendors, I believe, that have some of these sales enablement type solutions that complement social selling very, very well. So when it comes to sending your report up the food chain to your leadership team, those stakeholders who want to understand the performance of how social selling is going, because they never did it before in their career because they always picked up the phone or sent a bunch of emails. So what is it? How do you show success to them, and how do you translate that into terms that they can understand and relate to based on their previous experience in sales?
KPIs, I sit in marketing, but I report up to both marketing and sales, and the KPIs are a little bit different in both organizations. So for marketers, the KPIs are the amount of sharing. We create the content here. How much are we sharing an article? Kind of what is really relevant, and that kind of ties to content engagement. That's the next piece, is the content we're creating and being shared, is it really relevant? Does it make sense? Are the network engaging with it? Are they liking, sharing, commenting, and whatnot? The next piece is really lead generation. Social selling is an organic tool, and so this is kind of a nice complement to our paid content that we use, but it's organic. So we're out there able to see, are we generating leads? Are we able to use this platform to generate leads, to drive people back to our websites and attend events, webinars, download white papers, and whatnot? So lead gen is an important aspect of this as well. Then for sales, it's really about the numbers. We want to make sure that they are really utilizing their time effectively, because they are inundated with new tools, resources to use in their sales process. And so social selling is just one of them. So we want to make sure that their leaders know that the time they spend is really worthwhile. So I do a lot of qualitative data, and I send surveys out, and I ask them how are they using social media, and I collect that information, and I send that up the chain that this deal for $50K was generated because of activity done on both LinkedIn and Twitter. And from the program side, I make sure that the adoption is strong. I want to make sure people who are using the tool are actively engaged every month. So we have kind of a wide breadth of KPIs that we send up every month.
Being able to take and measure and attribute success back to where something started, of course, that's a challenge every single business has, right? It's a common discussion right now, even among marketers trying to figure out what ad did they see in order to, that actually drove them down the line. That's why a lot of companies still use a last touch attribution model. But I think that with social selling in particular, we're going to see more and more companies actually kind of figure out what number of content, pieces of content, or what types of engagement. Was it the tweet? Was it the LinkedIn invite? Or was it the time of the day that it was sent? Eventually we'll get that sophisticated. So I don't think we could ever expect anybody to be quite that sophisticated at this point, given that social selling has really only been around for like the last, hardcore, probably for the last 5 or 6 years. But it's good to hear that there are some measurements that you do have in place to be able to determine the success of this, and that you're continuing to invest that time and some resources into that as well.
And we do have tactics that go out on every article shared, so we are able to track, when what piece of content people were consuming when they came to our site or our event. So that's also helpful as a measurement tool.
Very good, Martin. Back to you.
Yeah. What are some of the stories on your journey that you'd like to share? Because you shared some in your presentation, and either some challenges that occurred or interfaces, or we started with somebody and then they got it and saw the payoff. Any of that, I think our listeners would enjoy hearing.
Whenever I meet a salesperson, I will whip out my phone and I will ask them, tell me what you're doing with social media with your business. And then I will record them with a 2 to 3 minute story so they can explain how they're using LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook to either connect with a prospect or to get a meeting scheduled. And that's been a very effective way for me to then publish that out in our monthly newsletters, on our intranet, again, to show people that it's really working, tangible evidence that it's working for people. And the second is, I meet with people regularly, again, to have a cadence to understand how they're using social media. These are technology influencers within Red Hat, because they're meeting with decision makers with our customers. And so a story that we just had recently is had a meeting with a potential customer at an event and had some conversations, took a picture with that person, published it on LinkedIn, wrote a little anecdote thanking that person for coming, tagging them. Then the CIO responded, liked it. We put it around the company here, shared it, and the amount of reach and engagement on that one post was more than that person had ever seen before. And as a result of that, the executive team was able to book a briefing with that company who was our customer, but they were only using our operating system. So now they're looking at exploring our whole emerging technologies portfolio. So from that one event, took a picture, put it on LinkedIn, we were able to generate a nice opportunity.
That's excellent. Good story. And one thing that I want to ask on that is, how do you decide permission for sharing information? Because there are clearly meetings people want to be tagged in and meetings they don't want to be tagged in. And I know from just the short knowing you and how your team works, they made sure that the customer would see that as a welcome broadcast, not as a unwelcome. Would you comment on that? Because I think those are the areas I hear people online getting stuck when we're training them, is giving examples of that.
Right. So any public event, that we are attending. So if we have a user group, we have a conference, we say, please take a lot of pictures, tag the people. Let's make sure we get the word out, show that we are Red Hats out in the industry, learning, teaching, growing. That's fine. If we have customers who are coming into our briefing center, that's a no-no. We don't want to have, we need to make sure when people are on site at Red Hat that it is kept confidential. We really that's how we distinguish the two. When you're in one of our offices, our towers, let's just keep it internal. When we're out in the marketplace, share it. Let's be as visible as we possibly can.
That's excellent. That's a real good example, because I think that's what stops people. What is appropriate sharing and what isn't. Even in my social media certificate program, should I take the pictures? What are the rules for doing it? And so forth. So it's kind of like you start from the base. We want you to share as much as possible, and then you're paying attention. And obviously, it's pretty clear if someone doesn't want to be promoted on it or not.
Right.
For that.
And we also have a wide range of corporate social channels at Red Hat. And so I encourage everybody to follow those accounts. And as a first step, just share what's on those channels there, because the corporate managers, they are trained in this. They know what's appropriate. So just put that information out into your network, add a comment on it, and start there. And then they can become more comfortable knowing what kind of information is appropriate to share.
What if people wanted that you either were surprised at or didn't realize or might have anticipated when they're asking? They're hungry, they're getting it. What are they looking for? What are the salespeople in the field wanting to be more effective?
Well, one thing I notice is that people, when they come to me, they always say, I know my profile should be better. I know I should be doing this. They have this impression in their mind that they're not doing it well enough. And what I say to them is, anything you do is fine. You're just kind of teaching them just to relax and know that it's a spectrum, and that they see people in the company who are just knocking it out of the park every day. And that's not how the world works. We're not all going to be that way. But I try and say, be as authentic as you can, be who you are, and just start where you are. So it might be as simple as just changing their summary from the third person, where it's, I'm a sales professional, to first person, I can help you solve your business problems. And just that, I can see the look of relief on their face, like, oh, okay, that I did something, and I can feel good about my part in being a social seller.
Well, first, I just have to do a happy dance on first person profile, because I'm preaching this probably for, I think it's getting close to 7 years. And the way we say it is, if you meet people in society and go, it's nice to meet Martin Brossman, then put in third person on your LinkedIn. And that was something I noticed looking at yours, because this did not exist. I'm 57 years old. There was no tools like this before. We had resumes. We didn't have digital first impressions. And so many don't get it. It looks like a boring document of legal boilerplate that no one's going to look at, not something that's your digital first impression with what we train in. We call it a customer-facing profile and how to optimize for that. And I wanted to give you kudos, because I noticed that, and I put in my notes to mention, but to hear it from you is something. Greg, we've been teaching this quite a while, haven't we?
Certainly have. And, it's that's how it all got started, because, for us, we saw marketing was really taking off very quickly with adopting everything with social, and sales was kind of getting left behind. And then basically because of the time period where we're in, right? So it was pretty much like we're just barely coming out of the recession. So everyone was very focused on like using LinkedIn in particular to basically create their profile like it was a resume. And we shortly came out and said, no, let's create this. Let's use this for acquiring new customers and generating new business. Sales folks, let's stop making this look like you're trying to work for an employer. Instead, let's work for the customer and create customer-facing profiles instead of employer-facing profiles. Because you want to immerse yourself as a salesperson, immerse yourself in the brand that you're selling. Because if you don't believe in what you're selling, It's going to come across in your LinkedIn profile. It's going to come across in your sales conversations. It's going to come across in the emails that you're sending out with that content that's coming out of that the sales enablement platform that you're using as well. And you're not going to be as effective of a salesperson that way.
So true. What I've also done is I schedule a lot of meetings with the leaders of the company. And again, Red Hat is a company where I can schedule a meeting with just about anybody. Doesn't matter your title. And so, because they're welcoming hearing from people who have opinions. And so I'll schedule meetings with them and go over their profile and give them 30 minutes, and we'll clean it up, we'll update it, and then in turn, they see the value. They'll say, oh my gosh, come to my team meeting. So I'll go to a team meeting and we'll get everybody at the secondary level all cleaned up. And then they can then go in their teams and kind of spread the word. So I've done a top-down approach from like the profile standpoint. So I want to make sure that we're really representing ourselves as best as we can, and we have a consistent way to do that. So we kind of do top-down, and then from the content, it's really grassroots. It's from the bottom up.
Customer loyalty, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit in the story you had shared about taking the person's picture and they hadn't been using the other products, or maybe they weren't aware of it. Social selling in particular can help with building customer loyalty. In particular, is this something that you're addressing as well?
Yes. Red Hat's customers are huge priority for us, and we have a lot of people that kind of support our customers, the same customer. So I really talk about you don't have to just be the frontline sales contact. There should be people in finance who are dealing with the individual, with that customer. Let's connect there as well. Let's build a wide range of relationships with that customer. So it's not just a one-to-one. It's let's get as many people. We have the technical account manager. We have marketing. Let's make sure the events people, as many people as we can, really who authentically work with our customers and have a relationship offline. Let's bring that online as well, just to further support our commitment to being a solid partner for them.
Very good. With that, you mentioned other departments are kind of involved, and social selling, you're right, is not just for sales teams, right? It can be done throughout the entire organization. Are you at the point where you're able to provide other teams in the company the same access to data about their customers as someone in sales might use?
That's a great question. We started this program with social selling, really focusing on sales. And because it's been so successful, we're now opening it to be more of a social advocacy program, because other teams, like we have a huge customer team here, and they are very interested in using a platform that they can easily engage with customers. So that's something that we're going to be working on next year, is really expanding this program to other teams within Red Hat who are interested in sharing on social.
Very cool.
Two of the things that are important in our training on social selling is the point Greg brought up is it's not just prospecting, but it's also the full buyer's journey through the purchase and then beyond. And we really treat the sale as the opening, not closing. And it's almost like the center point, not the end point. And anything you want to comment on that, because you've got content all the way. It's really a working with the customer, viewing their world, understanding it, showing insight into their world better than the competition. And I'd love to get your perspective on that, because that's, to me, the new selling. People don't want just more flashy interruptions in their face, even though the online magazines haven't gotten that memo yet. We've got to really earn the right to be in their attention today.
That's true. And I think
I'd love to hear your views on that.
Yeah, I think the beauty of using social media is that you can keep connecting with customers without even really being intentional about it. So if you're sharing content, for example, in our telco vertical, we have sales folks who have telco customers, and they might be thinking about customer A and really sharing their articles and what Red Hat's doing, or even industry news that would really resonate with the customer that they have in mind. but yet customer B, C, and D is going to be, because they're connected to them, because they're in their network, they're going to see that content as well. And they're going to see that, Bob is sharing great information. His intention is really for a specific customer, potentially, but the entire network is going to see the benefit of that. So instead of him picking up the phone and calling Bob directly, or calling, his customer directly, and having to call, A, B, and C, D directly, all of those folks in his network who are focused on the telco industry are going to see the benefit of that. So when I share stories like that, again, the light bulb that I get when I work with sales, keeps me fired up. I love it, because when they kind of get that this is the scale of this, it's something that they could never do with their traditional sales messages, is what gets them excited. And then I capture that on video and I push it out there into our internal network so other folks can see that, Jim is so excited and he hasn't been using social media, and now he is. I mean, that is like the biggest win for me, when I can see the change in behavior. And actually, they're building relationships, because it's all about relationships, and that's what gets salespeople excited too.
Well, it also looks like it's a great way to build morale internally, because you're kind of like the positive reality show of what's great going on. I mean, you aren't catching people doing things wrong. You're catching people of getting insights, getting on board. I really get how that also adds to a positive culture, because the truth is, we need everyone on deck building relationships with the customer and being the champion of how do we add value to their world, and how do we understand their world and their problems, even anticipating what their next problem will be. And we need more than just the front line doing it. We need the back line. The guy that's washing the dishes is seeing patterns that are important too. The waitress, the line person, everyone in the restaurant has something to contribute if you talk to them and realize they have value to add. And I think that's so exciting. You're going and looking across the spectrum inside and go, hey guys, we need everyone on deck here to keep this the world-class product we want it to be.
That's a really good point, because every time I'm at a company meeting, or I'm at a meeting where a leader is speaking about Red Hat and about where we need to be moving forward in the future, I glean those little tidbits and I put that in my email going out, or whenever I'm talking to somebody, I'll say, listen, Jim was talking about how our customers, we need to focus on our customers, for example. And so then I can say, this is a tangible way that Liesl, I can contribute to our company's mission and goal is by doing this activity. And that gives people pride, because people are so proud to work at Red Hat. And even they might think I'm sharing an article on LinkedIn. What does that mean? But no, you're actually extending Red Hat. You're extending Red Hat's brand awareness. Each time you share, you are growing our company's brand awareness. And that, again, gives people they think, oh, wow, cool, I can do that. That's something that I can tangibly do. Because I can't go up and I'm not going to call a customer up, because that's not what I do. But I can actually, help to support Red Hat's goals.
Social selling has, evolved quite a bit over the last few years. It's catching a lot more steam, and you've been managing this for a little bit now over at Red Hat, and you probably wish there were some things that were available to you now that may not be available quite yet. Not in the resource sense, like, the company doesn't want to allocate resources to doing this, but if there was something out there that you feel is like it's missing, that would make the job maybe a little bit easier, what do you think that would be?
And you mean more in the field in general, right, Greg?
Yeah, just in general, not related to Red Hat specifically, but you've had the experience now of working with a lot of different sales folks, and you're like, man, I just wish I had that one thing, and I just can't quite identify exactly what it is. But it could be like measurement of metrics, or it could be just a particular tool, or just any. What's your thought? What do you think the market's missing at this point?
Well, I think the market is moving in a direction which is going to help, because bringing more video to allowing sales to use video as part of their social selling toolkit, I think would be really important. And I see that happening now, because the medium of just sending out text and images is really, it feels very flat now. It's harder to have that connection, that conversation. Whereas I think being able to record something and putting it out into your network is going to give that sense of thought leadership, of just more personalization. which is harder to do without having a phone call. A phone call is very personal, but you can't scale that. So being able to incorporate tools where it really allows you to have that personal touch, but still have the scale is something that I've seen as a something missing. But I'm looking at that. I haven't really explored very much, but I'm interested in seeing what tools are out there to really allow sales to use video to connect with their customers.
Martin, how many times have we said on the podcast that it would be really nice if Twitter allowed you to DM video, right?
Right.
You can write a message and just DM, right? I think you can do it on Instagram. I know Instagram is launching a second, or taking the messaging part of Instagram out into a separate app called Direct. There's also Facebook Messenger, which does allow you to send 10-second or 15-second video, which doesn't really help a tremendous amount. But unless you're doing like a quick message or something like that. And thankfully on Facebook Messenger, you don't have to be connected. You don't have to be their friend on Facebook in order to send them a message. You just have to accept the connection on Messenger. They're trying to kind of separate the platforms a little bit. Then LinkedIn is doing native video, but you have to upload it into your stream so it's not private. So maybe LinkedIn will see the benefit, and I mean they're a little behind on the times anyway. But when it comes to video content, they seem to follow suit after maybe 3 or 4 years after Facebook rolls out something. But I agree, video, huge player. We've actually, I know Martin and Liesl, they sent a private YouTube video over to a potential guest, which we eventually got on the show, and just using private video. Or saving something as private, that was extremely helpful.
Yeah.
His team said, #you've been social sold is what in a video going, what is it going to take to get you on the show? And Elise and I were like hamming it up a little bit and say, well, you're in there, and he was like, okay, who are these guys? All right, we'll go on the show. And
I love it.
We talked about it. I just want to mention, Greg, video chat has been part of Snapchat from the fundamental. So it might, now that you're mentioning it, that's it. Now you don't have to put a rabbit ears on your head to do it.
That makes it more fun,
But the truth is, it's been there all along. So, I was thinking if Snapchat got on the bandwagon and figured out this is a competitive advantage they have now and capitalized on it, it might serve something.
As long as they would let you save it in a bit more, make it easier to save your video. Sometimes I send a video over Snapchat. I'm like, dang it, I wish I could send that to X, Y, and this person after I've already sent him is gone. So
right. You can now save it before you send it. So ask me. I teach Snapchat, so I'll show it to you.
Yes. No,
but
my
it's not
kids,
that clear.
My kids show me that, but it's not that clear. And
no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, they need to improve it. Anyway.
But speaking of Instagram, I've heard just from talking to some reps, I always ask them, so what do you see as the next channel, or what do you think is something that's missing from a social selling perspective? And a few people lately have said Instagram could be a really good tool for their business, and I'm going to be excited to explore some of that as well.
Yeah, we've been hearing a lot of the same things, and I'll listen to. There's a number of influencers who teach people how to use Instagram, and I don't think Martin and I are going to end up heading down that road as being Instagram influencers or anything like that. Definitely don't try to. But I do hear things, some nice little tactical things about, especially with using hashtags in particular. That, for example, go ahead and post your picture. Don't include any hashtags in your comment or your description of the picture, but be the first comment and include. You can do up to 35 hashtags if you want to, and there are tools out there to make it a little bit neater so it's line by line. But that one tip about don't include hashtags in your initial post. Come back, be the first comment with all the hashtags inside of it. I've tried that, and that works very, very, very well. And I'm able to take and pick up. I've learned. So I'll coach baseball, my son's baseball team, and I'll take and share pictures out there of him playing baseball. And I've learned about so many different small brands about baseball products that way. That is so cool because, they have some really innovative things. And I enjoy the content that they share back. So I'll follow it back because I want to see those, the stop motion videos that they're doing about baseball, or someone who just clobbered a home run or something like that. Like these really cool things that interest me, and is great. And I think you can do the same thing from a B2B standpoint on Instagram as well. The direct messaging capability is great. So it's Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Gary. He's come and actually keynoted at Internet Summit a couple times. And over the I think it's been about 3 or 4 years since he's been back, but he's all over it. He loves Instagram. He posts content every single day out there, and has a strategy for reaching out using DM messages and reaching out to 100 folks a week through it, and then getting those replies. So it's kind of like the cold calling a little bit, but using that DM and getting involved in that, I think there's some benefit there for that.
Yep. That's great.
I would like to know if for somebody, what do you see as the fundamental skills in the domain of social selling to develop? Because we've worked hard with it. I'm finishing an article just on that, so maybe I'll have an excuse to mention the show with it. And of course, we've spent quite a bit of time looking at that in our fundamentals class on social selling we just rolled out. But what do you see as, what if someone comes in and goes, how would I be able to say, you know what, I'm at least a good rookie in social selling starting out? Or what's the fundamentals?
So I love finding something that works and sharing that. And what I found that really works is the social selling index, which is a benchmark from LinkedIn. And I know it's only on LinkedIn, but from my experience, I think I need to get our sales using LinkedIn comfortably before they move on to Twitter. That's what I see. So I'll go into LinkedIn and I'll talk about the 4 areas of the social selling index. Get your profile cleaned up. Get your strategy for how you're going to connect with people. You got to keep connecting every week. 1 to 3 people every single week. Grow your network, because that's how you're going to extend the reach of what you're talking about, what you're sharing. Third thing, share. They say engage with insights. Find the content. Find a platform. Just do some Feedly. Get some content once a week. Start once a week if you can't do it. Moving into every day would be fantastic. Then lastly, it's the relationships. It's liking, it's sharing, it's commenting, being authentic. But that framework really helps the people that I'm working with. Just give them, it's 4 steps, it's 4 easy things they can check it off their list. We have checklists available for them. They can download it from the intranet and just give them some easy things they can get started. And once they start it, they realize, oh wow, I can be a bit more flexible. And they get it, they start changing it up a little bit. But from giving them that, the control of saying, yes, if I do these things, then I will be a social seller. That's great.
Excellent. Very good. I'd like to know what else you'd love to tell people about your experience of social selling in Red Hat, and then we'll wrap it up, because this was excellent. I think this gave people a view into how a company's gone from doing a good job in sales to in testing out social selling to embracing it and then amplifying it and keeping it alive, because it's just like a good vision and mission. Unless you're in conversation with it, it's going to die.
Right. So Red Hat, we are a software company, technology company, and a lot of the content is very technical. And we have content that's really about open source, because we rely on open source principles. That's really giving our company success. So come to redhat.com, check out open source stories. They are a set of videos that we've put together that show open source in our communities. And once you're there, you can see all the channels that we have, find out what we're sharing, look up on LinkedIn some individuals who are working for Red Hat, and check out how they are social selling. And let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your feedback about what I can do better.
Yeah, I think I appreciate you letting everyone kind of come out to Red Hat to check out that insight and see what you guys are doing from social selling. I'm glad that someone in downtown Raleigh is advocating for this as much as they are. That's exciting, especially a company like Red Hat, considering the size of the organization and how successful that they have been. And so taking a homegrown approach is extremely admirable. So congratulations for such great success with that program. I hope you continue. And of course, we'll see more. I'm sure we'll see more and hear more about it. You'll be speaking next year again at Internet Summit. I'm sure you will.
Yes.
So, Well, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to the Social Selling Podcast by Linking Into Sales. Don't forget, you can take and follow us on Twitter over at Linking In, the number 2, Sales. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes or Google Play Music. You can get it on your Android device there. Stitcher, as well as TuneIn. You can ask Alexa to actually play the Social Selling Podcast, and she'll do that for you. Did I just trigger her?
Yeah.
No? Okay. So then don't forget, also leave us reviews. We absolutely love reviews. We love the folks who have actually left a few reviews out there. We're up to 10, which is pretty good considering how niche this particular podcast is, and we hope to continue to grow it. So if you think this podcast was valuable, please share it with your friends, your colleagues, as well as go back to the library of all the podcasts we have. This is episode 122, so we have a whole lot more right behind it. Anyways, enjoy, and don't forget, reach out to us if you have any questions or if you have a suggestion for a guest. Come out to linkingintosales.com, and you guys have a great day.
Excellent. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.